A jury in Florida awarded Jack Nicklaus $50 million in his defamation lawsuit against Nicklaus Companies. This is according to a report by ESPN. Nicklaus Companies is not owned by Nicklaus, but instead billionaire Howard Milstein.
The atmosphere inside that Florida courtroom was suffocating with anticipation. Jack Nicklaus, at 85 years old, sat gripping the hands of his loved ones as the jury prepared to deliver their final decision, and when those words came, the room exploded with emotion. The Golden Bear, a man who dominated golf with 18 major championship victories, had just secured an astounding $50 million judgment, not in a battle against another athlete, but against the very corporation that bore his legendary name. This confrontation transcended financial compensation. Jack Nicklaus was defending something far more valuable than currency. He was protecting his identity, his dignity, and the monumental achievements he accumulated through decades of excellence. That $50 million ruling represented more than victory. It served as a powerful statement correcting a distorted narrative that threatened to tarnish the final years of an icon's remarkable journey.
Hole in one for Jack Nicklaus, $50 million verdict for a defamation case that he filed in Florida against his former business partners who had been out there making defamatory remarks about his mental health and acuity, his ability to manage his own business affairs, and his relationship with Liv.
Money wants to corrupt the game's integrity. Money seeks to purchase legitimacy and respect it hasn't earned. Deception, treachery, and avarice had surrounded him like predators stalking prey, yet he refused to surrender. His counterattack inflicted damage that cut far deeper than any monetary penalty could achieve. This confrontation had been building momentum for years, simmering beneath the surface like a volcano waiting to erupt. Beneath the polished public relations announcements lurked a tempest of resentment and concealed negotiations. The origins trace back to 2007, when Nicklaus transferred the rights to his identity, likeness, and his internationally recognized golf course design business to the newly established Nicklaus Companies for an enormous $145 million. The arrangement, supported by billionaire financier Howard Milstein, appeared promising initially, presenting opportunities for expansion and growth that seemed mutually beneficial. But that partnership deteriorated rapidly. What commenced as mutual confidence quickly transformed into friction and disloyalty. The cracks in the foundation began showing almost immediately, though few could have predicted the catastrophic collapse that would follow. Trust evaporated like morning dew under a scorching sun.
Guys, John Reese and Paul Stringer from the Nicklaus Companies were there because we were doing the golf course, and they proposed this thing to me. And, I did it out of courtesy to them because we were doing a golf course for them. I had zero interest in it, in wanting to do something like that.
A business transaction evolved into total warfare, with battle lines drawn and positions fortified. Following his departure from executive responsibilities in 2017, Nicklaus faced restrictions from a 5-year non-compete agreement that limited his ability to operate independently in the industry he had helped build. However, when that limitation expired in 2022 and he attempted to regain his independence and reclaim control of his professional destiny, chaos erupted. Nicklaus Companies, under Howard Milstein's leadership, launched a devastating lawsuit in New York, charging the golf legend with appropriating business opportunities without authorization. That was merely the opening salvo of something far more sinister. The battle became intensely personal, targeting his reputation, his integrity, his very essence. They initiated a defamation effort designed to destroy his standing permanently. What began as corporate disagreements transformed into something uglier, something that cut straight to the heart of who Jack Nicklaus was as a human being.
Golf legend Jack Nicklaus just won $50 million in a defamation lawsuit and cleared his name once and for all. According to ESPN, a Florida jury ruled that Nicklaus Companies, owned by billionaire banker Howard Milstein, defamed the Golden Bear.
The gloves came off and the fight turned brutal, with both sides preparing for a protracted legal battle that would test everyone's resolve. At the heart of this assault were two vicious allegations crafted to demolish his pristine reputation that he had spent a lifetime building. The first was an explosive assertion that Jack Nicklaus, an enduring symbol of PGA excellence and traditional golf values, had secretly entertained a staggering $750 million proposal to align with the Saudi-financed El Aviv Golf Organization. Nicklaus's legal representatives argued that this El Aviv rumor wasn't coincidental. It was deliberately fabricated, planted strategically to maximum damaging effect. A calculated, underhanded strategy to portray him as a traitor, someone willing to abandon generations of PGA Tour allegiance for Saudi funding. The subsequent attack struck even more brutally, targeting something even more personal than his professional reputation. Whispered insinuations began circulating that the 85-year-old legend was experiencing cognitive decline, suggesting he lacked capacity to manage his affairs independently or make sound business decisions.
That whole Saudi Arabia thing.
Well, you know, it's I don't really have a problem with it from the standpoint of there's some guys it fits, guys that are near the end of their career.
Eugene Stearns, Nicklaus's attorney, revealed the reality in court testimony, explaining the smear campaign aimed to convince people that someone needed to remove his authority and independence, to take away the keys as if he were no longer capable. That demonstrates how aggressively they operated, attempting to strip away his autonomy, his influence, his self-respect. It represented a ruthless, premeditated character assassination designed to eliminate the Golden Bear from his own creation. These weren't just business tactics, they were personal attacks designed to wound and humiliate a man who had given his entire life to the sport. Inside that Florida courtroom, the fabrications finally shattered and truth emerged powerfully, breaking through the wall of lies like a wrecking ball. When witnesses provided testimony, everything became transparent. Electronic correspondence, telephone conversations, confidential memoranda. The jury observed the profound extent of the betrayal, seeing with their own eyes the evidence of systematic deception.
In the lawsuit, Nicklaus claimed Milstein and other employees suggested he considered a deal worth $750 million to become the face of the Saudi Arabian-financed Live Golf League and told those false claims to media outlets. Nicklaus left the company in 2017 and stepped down from the board.
Nicklaus's former business associates had attempted to manipulate his achievements into their possession, claiming ownership of his identity, his appearance, even his voice and promotional materials. Consider that reality. The Golden Bear being informed he no longer controlled his own persona, that his very essence had become someone else's property. The courtroom reacted with astonishment when Nicklaus's team presented documentation showing they had exploited his brand for transactions he never authorized, deals made in his name without his knowledge or consent. For Jack, the motivation transcended wealth accumulation. It concerned respect and recognition. He constructed that reputation through dedication, professionalism, and 6 decades of supremacy. Individuals he once considered trustworthy were attempting to profit from his accomplishments, to build their empire on the foundation he had laid.
Nicklaus files suit and wins. Big jury verdict, we got a win.
When the jury assembled the evidence, they recognized who truly operated dishonestly. Suddenly, the empire that tried silencing him stood on unstable foundations. The revelation shocked everyone present, as layer after layer of deception was peeled back to expose the truth beneath, revealing a pattern of manipulation that left observers speechless. Milstein's representatives attempted damage control, suggesting Jack had been confused and misremembered important details, painting him as an old man losing his grip on reality. But the jury rejected those explanations immediately. They witnessed an 85-year-old champion still mentally sharper than most executives decades younger, his mind as precise as his putting stroke had ever been. The defense strategy backfired spectacularly, exposing them as manipulators attempting to deceive a living legend. Then arrived the pivotal moment that would define the entire trial. Jack himself testified, composed, resolute, and radiating controlled intensity that reminded everyone of his championship performances. His voice wavered only once when discussing honor, recalling how his father taught him that your reputation equals your commitment, that a man's word is his bond. The jury understood this transcended business negotiations. It represented a struggle for dignity, for heritage, for authenticity. When Jack concluded his testimony, the courtroom recognized the verdict was already determined emotionally. He had earned their conviction. His words carried the weight of a lifetime spent building something meaningful, something that couldn't be measured in dollars alone, something that represented the very best of what sports and competition could be. When the jury foreman finally announced the decision, the courtroom became motionless, everyone holding their breath in anticipation. Then gasps, tears, and applause erupted as Jack Nicklaus was declared victorious. The judge's voice resonated through the chamber. $50 million in damages awarded? This wasn't about the financial compensation. It represented redemption, vindication, justice finally served. The Golden Bear had endured doubt, mockery, and assault, and he just reclaimed his identity before the entire world.
I don't care what kind of money they would have thrown at me. My allegiance has been to the PGA Tour. I grew up with the PGA Tour. I helped found the PGA Tour as it is today. And my allegiance is there and it's going to stay there.
Journalists rushed outside as supporters celebrated, some weeping as though he had just captured another Masters tournament, their emotions overflowing. Nicklaus smiled, humble yet formidable, stating simply that fairness was all he ever desired. That statement resonated more powerfully than any championship speech he had ever delivered. His adversaries attempted to erase him, but instead they reminded everyone why he remains golf's greatest living legend. The Golden Bear didn't merely win a lawsuit. He reclaimed his power, his voice, his very identity. The verdict echoed far beyond that courtroom, sending ripples through the entire sports world and beyond, a reminder that integrity still matters. Systematically, Nicklaus's legal team dismantled the false narrative that Nicklaus companies had constructed around him, brick by brick, lie by lie. The evidence was devastating and irrefutable. Confirmed there was a meeting in 2021 with representatives from Gulf Saudi, the organization behind El Aviv Golf. That meeting wasn't suspicious. It was legitimate business, completely straightforward and above board. It had been arranged by a Nicklaus company's executive to discuss designing a golf course, fully permitted under his contract and within the scope of his professional obligations. During that conversation, the officials attempted expanding the discussion, inquiring whether Nicklaus would accept a leadership position with El Aviv, become the public face of their controversial new organization, and pocket an extraordinary paycheck that would have dwarfed most athletes' career earnings. According to sworn testimony, Jack didn't pause to consider or even entertain the possibility. He rejected the proposal immediately, decisively, without hesitation. No negotiation, no manipulation, no temptation. His reasoning was transparent and heartfelt, rooted in values that had guided him throughout his entire career. The documentation proved beyond any doubt that Jack had acted with complete integrity throughout the entire situation, maintaining his principles even when enormous financial incentives were dangled before him.
Falsely claimed that Jack had entertained a $750 million offer to represent the Saudi-backed Live Golf League, something Nicklaus says never happened. His attorney told ESPN that Jack was accused of selling out the PGA Tour.
For Jack Nicklaus, the PGA Tour wasn't merely an organization or a business entity. It was his foundation, his home. It represented the essence of his legacy, the platform where he constructed his legend stroke by stroke, tournament by tournament, victory by victory. When El Aviv Golf approached him with their lucrative offer, Jack's response was unwavering and immediate. If the PGA didn't support it, neither would he. He selected principle over profit, loyalty over luxury, character over cash. That defines his character consistently throughout his entire life and career. After merely 4.5 hours of deliberation, the Palm Beach County jury delivered their decision decisively and without ambiguity. Victory for Nicklaus. They determined that Nicklaus companies had defamed him, disseminating falsehoods that damaged his reputation and subjected him to ridicule, hatred, distrust, and contempt from those who believed the lies. His attorney Eugene Stearns told reporters that proving reputational damage is always challenging, particularly for someone like Jack, whose identity has always represented integrity and excellence. This concerned one specific lie: that Jack betrayed the PGA Tour for Saudi money, that he had sold out everything he believed in. That falsehood finally died in court, exposed for the manufactured fiction it always was. The jury saw through the smoke and mirrors to recognize the truth that had been there all along, waiting to be acknowledged. Nicklaus Company's lawyer attempted minimizing the outcome, characterizing the verdict as merely a business disagreement between former partners. The jury wasn't deceived for even a moment. They recognized the truth. This wasn't about contracts or competition. It concerned character, reputation, and the deliberate destruction of a man's good name. The company had spread lies and now faced consequences for their actions. Certainly, Howard Milstein and executive Andrew O'Brien avoided personal liability through legal technicalities and corporate structures, but the damage to their reputations remains unforgettable and permanent. That critical moment became the foundation of the entire trial, and the jury accepted it completely, understanding the deeper implications. The lies collapsed and truth burst through like sunshine after storms, illuminating everything that had been hidden in shadows. This verdict was the explosive culmination of a years-long legal battle spanning multiple jurisdictions and countless hours of preparation. The path to justice had been long and arduous, filled with obstacles and setbacks, but ultimately worth every difficult step along the way. Previously in July 2024, a Florida arbitrator had already released Nicklaus from his non-compete clause, granting the Golden Bear authorization to design golf courses again independently and under his own identity without restrictions. Then came April 2025, the final development in this extraordinary saga that had consumed years of his life. A New York judge officially ruled that Jack Nicklaus possessed complete rights to utilize his own name, image, and likeness again, reclaiming his identity definitively and permanently. Certainly, Nicklaus Companies still controls the Golden Bear trademarks for apparel and golf equipment, maintaining some commercial interests, but the man behind the legend has finally achieved freedom in the ways that matter most to him. Each legal victory built upon the previous one, creating a comprehensive restoration of everything that had been taken from him, piece by piece reclaiming what was rightfully his. What comes next for the Golden Bear? At 85, Jack has demonstrated that his determination never diminished over the decades. It simply burns differently now, with the wisdom of age tempering the fire of youth. He fought in court identically to how he once competed on courses, calm, fearless, and impossible to defeat, maintaining composure under enormous pressure. He cleared his reputation, protected his legacy, and showed the world that integrity still matters profoundly in an era that sometimes seems to have forgotten such values. That $50 million victory isn't merely about money or financial compensation, it's a message engraved permanently in the history books. Truth can defeat power. Genuine legends don't disappear or fade away quietly. They fight back harder than anyone expects. He remained steadfast to his principles, stayed faithful to his convictions, and emerged victorious once more, adding another chapter to his remarkable story. One final triumph for the Golden Bear, proving that champions never truly stop fighting for what matters most to them. His story serves as an inspiration for anyone facing seemingly insurmountable odds, demonstrating that with courage and conviction, justice can prevail even against the most powerful opponents.